Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Radhe. As I was just saying, I want to propose having a look at one of my books in English language, because the books that I wrote in Italian language are not very practical to discuss in English, and also I prefer not to use books written by other people, because I may appear to be overcritical, or on the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't like to bring to be responsible for things that have been said by other people, and that I don't agree, I don't see as perfectly correct. So if I make mistakes, I'm responsible for my mistakes. We can discuss. If I see presentations written by other people, I cannot be responsible for those presentations, so I prefer to avoid them. So that's why I would like to present today here it is. I'm going to share, and the book Why I Became a Hindu. So you mentioned you had already gone through browsing, have been browsing through. So we still have the phone number of India, which is not a good idea. I'll have to edit, but let's see. So the table of contents. We have preface, my work, my experience, why Hinduism is better, fundamental teachings of Hinduism, a definition of Hinduism, the problem of caste, the importance of bhakti, the need for a guru, can someone become a Hindu, historical examples, Hinduism in the world, conversions in modern times, individual who embraced Hindu beliefs, Hindu revival, and then we start with, from page 73, we start with a very long list of persons who I consider inspirational, and goes from the most recent to the most ancient. So, okay, then we also have Vaishnavism, and then we have a conclusion. So it's 267 pages, also not written very small, as you can see. So it's not a big book. So, as usual, I don't want to go on a monologue, because it becomes boring.
Yes.
Becomes boring for not only for the people, but even for me. So in case I don't want to just read the book, because people can actually download the PDF and read the book by themselves if they want. But I would like to see if there is any point that we can discuss for the benefit of the people who are going to see the video or listen to the video, because you don't necessarily need to see it, they can also listen to it. So the preface.
So one thing I want to ask from the content.
Yeah.
So, like you did research, like deep research on all those people, or like till like how much you got to know about those, like these works have been done, if the recent ones or the
Yeah.
older ones also, like you went into deep understand what their philosophy was, or
Well,
you
of
just browsed
course,
it.
I wanted to make, a book that was of reasonable size,
Mhm.
and I tried to keep only the main points that I found particularly inspiring,
Mhm.
because going very deeply into specifics of all the people you have seen, it's a big list. It's like, so we just have the introduction. The
Mhm.
introduction is
No,
73 page. Huh?
asking from the book's perspective. I'm not asking from the book's perspective. I'm asking like how you interacted with these philosophies. Like
Oh,
you went
not
into
from the
what they
book
wanted to say.
perspective. Oh, how I interacted. Okay.
Like you went into
Um,
like understanding what their philosophy was, or you just for this book purpose you they then put those things of some of those people.
okay. I have had different experiences about different groups.
Okay.
Now, not all the groups, I didn't have the same level or depth of experience with all the groups and all the people. Some of these groups and people I researched more, specifically the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition,
Mm-hmm.
and especially Chaitanya, because that is my, I was actively practicing for many years, and I'm still very connected to Chaitanya and to his bhakti movement. And I have researched specifically Chaitanya and Bhakti movement, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakti movement, not just from the perspective of ISKCON, but from the perspective of several Gaudiya Mats, from the Gaudiya Mat line, and also from the perspective of non Saraswata Gaudiya Mas are not the only Gaudiya organizations and groups, because in fact the Nityananda Parivar, the Advaita Parivar, the Gadadhar Parivar, they are very prominent. The Gopala Bhatta Goswami Parivar, like the Radharaman temple, they're very prominent.
Mm-hmm.
But they have nothing to do with the Saraswata Gaudiya Vaishnavas. By Saraswata Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we refer to the Gaudiya Matas founded by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So, Saraswata Gaudiya Mata. They take the
Mm-hmm.
name from him. Then a branch of the Saraswata Gaudiya Mat, Saraswata Gaudiya tradition, is of course the ISKCON tradition, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of group and smaller groups and independent groups, so it's a big story. And in fact, especially starting from the ISKCON tradition, this is the most popular, I mean most widely known tradition within what we can call Hinduism. Although the ISKCON members do not identify as Hindus. This is very interesting, because the very clear statements of Bhaktivedanta Swami. He said several times, he wrote also in his books, and he said, literally, there are many people who think we are Hindus, but this is not a fact. But very clearly, he said. Why? Because Bhaktivedanta Swami had the idea of Hinduism that was popular and prominent among, the global culture in his times, which was on the in the field of Western Indology. Unfortunately, Western Indology has seriously influenced also the perception of Indian Hindus. So we got a lot of confusion about what exactly Hinduism is. And in fact, this is one of the main points here in the introduction. Here, a definition of Hinduism. So Bhaktivedanta Swami was convinced that Hinduism is all about caste and birth prejudice. And that's why he didn't identify himself or his organization as Hindu. And
in the Western land, also looked at Hinduism in this way only.
Sorry?
It is caste. The Western lens looks at Hinduism through this way only.
I'm not just the Westerners, unfortunately, because Bhaktivedanta Swami was not exactly a Westerner. But just to make one example, we were just talking about, and also another big problem coming from the context in which Bhaktivedanta Swami was speaking is the problem, the misconception, the misinformation about the so-called Mayavadis. So in the colonial times, Hinduism was mostly perceived as the tradition of the Shankaracharya Math. The so-called Vedantins. Because the presentation, the philosophical presentation of the Shankaracharya Math was very acceptable by the Western scholars. Because it was, very philosophical. And the Western scholars were used to study all sorts of philosophy. So they were not particularly agitated because it was not talking about religion. The Shankaracharya preachers, they appeared as learned philosophers. And they rarely talked about God. They were talking about the Brahman. So they were not focusing on the Puranas, on the temples, on the deity worship. Of course, they didn't deny them, but they were not focusing on that. While, for example, the Arya Samaj, which was a contemporary of the Bhaktivedanta and Bhaktisiddhanta, the Arya Samaj openly rejected the temples, the avatars, the Puranas, even the Bhagavad Gita. Deity worship. They were actually very aggressive against deity worship. Now, the Shankaracharya preachers and teachers were something in between. So they were more popular both with the Western philosophers and Western, the British colonial government, and also with the traditional Hindus, because they were not opposing the temples, they were not opposing the position of the Brahmanas, they were not opposing the traditional, all the samskaras and all this stuff. So the Shankaracharya Math was, the most popular in Bhaktivedanta styles. Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda. So, in order to distance themselves and their organization from the Shankaracharya approach, Shankaracharya Math approach, Bhaktivinoda, Bhaktisiddhanta, and then later Bhaktivedanta tried to, condemn the Shankaracharya Math conclusions by imitating Madhva, who was a sannyasi, maker. He was a Vaishnava, and he introduced the idea of sannyas among Vaishnavas and everything. So they, at some point there, they decided, okay, let's refer to Madhva. And they started to call themselves Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. But that was a point of context. It was not a point of ideology. It was a political move. It was a context, a practical system, a practical device, It was not ideological, because Madhva had very different ideas compared to Chaitanya. Even up to the point of Krishnadasa Kaviraj, who was not a contemporary of Chaitanya. He came, I think, 1 or 2 generations later. But still, Krishnadasa Kaviraj, who wrote the famous Chaitanya Charitamrita, openly recognized that Chaitanya had taken Diksha from the Shankaracharya Math and had nothing to do with the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. It's very clear in the text. So this idea of connecting with Madhva was a strategical move due to the context. Now, I was, I practiced, and I was a very active member of that group organization until 84. From 84 to 86, 1984 until 1986, I started traveling around India. And to answer your original question, I started to get in touch with different groups of people. Like, for example, other Gaudiya Matas, which also had quite different approaches to the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Like, for example, the concept of Harinama Diksha, which in Gaudiya Mat groups is quite different from what, the presentation done by ISKCON. Anyway, so also the attitude towards Shiva and Shakti, for example, I have observed personally, because I went around and I spoke with lots of people. I visited many temples in my, from 84 until 2004, 2005, 2010. I was going around a lot. I was visiting lots of temples, talking with lots of people, and So I went to see. There are many temples of the Gaudiya ashram temples, matas, where they are worshipping Shiva. They have no problems. While ISKCON and people around ISKCON, they are sometimes very offensive towards Shiva, which is stupid because it's exactly it's very very much against what Chaitanya was teaching. But anyway, so but from 84 onwards, I was going not only around the Gaudiya Vaishnava movement. I also, apart from the Gaudiya Matas, where I actually, associated a lot with Gaudiya Mat people for several years. But also I went to talk and interact with other Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Especially because in Puri, I lived in Puri from 94 to 2019, basically. 94 to 2019. Especially in Puri, everyone is there in Puri, which made things extremely easy because I could go and visit all the matas, all the groups, all the organizations, all the almost all, of course, because not all, but most of them. So I could have direct contact, direct discussions. And also for about 10 years, I was traveling around India in general. So I went from Raniket, which is in the Himalayas, to Kanyakumari, going around, and I went to Udupi, I went to, of course, Kashi, and I visited many temples, including Kashi Vishwanath, including Guruvayur in Kerala, which usually are not open to foreigners. But because I didn't look like a foreigner, I didn't behave like a foreigner, so I was easily going through. And in that way, I had the opportunity to observe and study, and I always like to read. I have been reading a lot in this lifetime. So whenever I was finding something interesting, I was just, trying to get the books and read. And this was especially in the tradition, Shaiva and Shakta traditions, I found extremely interesting because, of course, in the West, you didn't have practically almost any source for information, at least in those times. But in India, of course, there was a lot of opportunity. Then when the internet came in India, I was resident in India, from 94 to 2019. So as soon as internet came, I started to interact through internet with lots of groups and representatives of different organizations, different traditions and everything. So I literally had exchanges and conversations with thousands of people. And thousands of people, not, cricket fans, because I was not interested in those type of people. I was interested only in interaction with qualified, knowledgeable people who actually practice Hinduism in different forms. So in this way, I came to know about the Alvas, the Nayanas, the Varkaris, and other traditions that nobody has heard about in the West. Or even in India, there are many places in India, where even Hindus from other places, like Hindus from Bengal, you talk to them, you mention the Varkaris, they don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe the Alvas, because they think, if they have this, some knowledge about Chaitanya, Puri, and Alarnath, so Alarnath, Alvarnath, maybe they can go and find out why that, Vishnu form is called, deity is called Alarnath. But the Varkaris, nobody knew who are the, what, who the Varkaris are?
Yeah, like I was in Pune, so.
In Pune, right, exactly. Some more that, yeah. Pune is different, but, have you ever heard any Bengali about Varkaris?
Yeah, they might not be good.
Nope, they have no idea. So, and Tantra as well. Because in Puri I had, a huge opportunity of, making deeper research into Tantra, because Orissa is the original home of Tantra. The Udiyana Tantra is the most, the primordial Tantra, which also went to influence Buddhism, especially in Vajrayana Buddhism, Lamaism. So by studying Tantra on one side, and trying to understand also, because in India I also went to visit Buddhist groups. For example, there is a very big Buddhist Lamaist monastery, Bihar, in near Mysore. And I went there, I was talking with Lamas, I was talking with, the other, other bhikshus there, and teachers, and, so I got I collected information and knowledge, not just superficial information, but I tried to be as deep and solid as possible. So, being from Pune, you must have heard about Arya Samaj. Dayananda Saraswati of Arya Samaj. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah. Then, in Bengal, you can find out about Ramakrishna, Paramahamsa, and Vivekananda, who are very famous also in the West. Then, this is all from the area of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, because they were a big turning point for Hinduism. Because before Vivekananda, Hinduism was practically unheard of in the West. Vivekananda was the first one who started the interest for Hinduism. When he went, I think you were aware of that. He went to the...
Yeah, this was part of our...
the World Fair in Chicago, in the beginning of the 1900s. So he made this famous speech, and then, wow, the interest for Hinduism exploded. And Vivekananda made a lot of disciples, but very, very strong disciples. like, for example, who actually moved to India, became completely dedicated, and they actually moved to India. For example, Sister Nivedita became extremely famous. And some other ones, and another one that I didn't insert here so much, very clearly, but for example, Annie Besant. Annie Besant, who went on to found the Theosophical Society, was also a contact from Vivekananda originally. So Vivekananda came back from the United States, and in general he was going around, as I describe in the small section of my book about Vivekananda. He traveled around a lot, and he came back with very dedicated disciples, Western disciples, who actually even became active in the independence movement against the British Church, which sometimes Indian Hindus forget about that. Because they think, all the Westerners are bad, because they, well, what about Sister Nivedita? What about, all these people? There were some, several people who actually came, like, like Swarupananda Swami also. These are all mostly Western people. So, and Ramakrishna also was definitely not attached to the caste idea. So all these, the first one is the Arya Samaj, then Ramakrishna. Then we have Yogananda, Paramahamsa Yogananda. You probably heard about Yogananda.
Yeah.
He became extremely famous in the West because of the book he wrote, The Autobiography of a Yogi, which was a huge success. So first we had Vivekananda, then we had Yogananda, and lots of Western people became very interested. Then, many people converted directly. Then we have, in the same area of Yogananda, we have Hariharananda, Shivananda. Then we have Shivananda and the Divine Life Society. Yogananda is a self-realization fellowship. Yeah, it's supposed to be SRF, not FRS. Okay, no problem. So, Shivananda, Divine Life Society, and others, like Chinmayananda is also famous, especially in the Western United States, but not only, because he's a very quiet guy and he likes music a lot. He's a musician. And through music was also another big point of attraction for Western people, who are very attracted to Indian music. For example, you might have heard of the original Ravi Shankar. Not the Shri. No, that's another Ravi Shankar. No, the Ravi Shankar that was going around in the 1960s, and he organized with the Beatles the concert for Bangladesh. In the United States, and Ravi Shankar became extremely popular, and the Beatles were very attracted to Indian music and Indian philosophy like that. Especially George Harrison. In the 60s and 70s, he produced he was very, very interested, very into Indian philosophy, especially the Bhakti and the Hare Krishna. So much that he created a very popular song that was, the title was My Sweet Lord, in which he actually sings the Hare Krishna mantra. And when George Harrison died, he left his property to ISKCON, for example. So that means he was really into it. And, in the area of music, lots of people, musicians and everything, became quite interested. Like, I don't know if you heard about Nina Hagen. Probably not. Nina Hagen is a German punk singer who became very attracted to Hinduism. So she made a lot of songs, devotional songs. Now then she disappeared a little because she was more popular in the 1980s, 1990s. Now people have more or less forgotten. Then we have Shimayananda, Pranavananda. Here we are, okay. Then we come to Ramana Maharshi, who's also extremely famous in the West as a philosopher and had several Western disciples and followers. Then we have the other one, is like Nisargadatta and Aurobindo. Aurobindo, Mer and Mother Mira are two different people, but Mer is connected directly with Aurobindo. Then we have Chinmoy, which is another one, is another another musician. Then we have other, less famous people. And Ananda Mahima, who should not be confused with Amritananda Mai. So Amritananda Mai is a famous Kerala saint that is hugging everyone. You probably heard about her, Amma.
No, I've not heard. I've heard about the other Mahima, like Safaj Yoga.
Yeah, the Amritananda Mai is very famous among foreigners because she also went many times around the world, and she's famous because she's hugging everyone. Actually, Amritananda Mai is coming from a low caste in Kerala. So she has no problem in hugging everywhere. So, and people were actually, very, very comforted, everyone, just the love and affection and contact and concern and personal connection, personal relationship. And after some time, she also established a deeper study of the Shastra in her ashrams and everything, but she started just hugging people, Then Ganeshananda Giri is... Huh?
No, I just said okay.
Yeah, good. Then we have some other famous people, relatively famous people. Then we go to the yogis. For example, Udiya Baba and Bhavamani Paramahamsa are Prahamsi. They're very famous in Orissa, Bhagavan Gopinath also. Siddharudha. Tibeti Baba, Trailanga Swami, they're big yogis. Bama Khepa is, I don't know if you heard about him, he was, because he lived in 1800s, between 1800 and 1900s. He was a very dedicated tantric sadhaka who lived at the Tarapit, which is one of the main Shakti Pit in Bengal. So we have Samatha, Shiva Puri Baba, Kiteshwar, Shiva Yoga Swami, Nandinatha Sampradaya. Then we have the Shivaya Subramanya Swami and the Saiva Siddhanta Church, who actually are in the Orthodox line, but they were established in Hawaii, in the United States, by the Shivaya Subramanya Swami. Was initiated in the Saiva Siddhanta tradition, but he was American born. He was a Western guy. But a very orthodox, group, and they have lots of followers, Hindu-born followers, especially Mauritius, Indonesia, these areas. Then we have the Junakara, and we go to the Shankaracharya area. Acharya Ram Shivan, Nigamananda Paramahamsa, who was also very interesting personality in Puri, especially Puri and Bengal. And then we have the Gitananda Giri, who's Italian, and the ICR who became initiated in the Nata Sampradaya, in the Siddha medicine especially. So very, very orthodox. They started the Hindu Union in Italy, and they have an ashram in Italy, big one. Then we have Ramaswamy in Himalaya. These are all more or less new age people. Then Neem Karoli Baba. You heard about Neem Karoli Baba?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually made friends with some of his disciples, who are extremely nice people. One of them is the famous Krishna Das, who does all the bhajans, and he got a Grammy, music awards for his bhajans. Then we have Baba Harila, Herakan Baba. Herakan Babaji also is another very interesting sadhu from the Shaiva area, the Shaiva tradition, and I have had very close contact, relationship, and cooperation, lots of conversations with his group, with Herakan Baba. And then we go Muktananda and Siddha Yoga. That's interesting. We got a lot of Western people. And also Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and the famous transcendental meditation registered trademark. That's interesting. And then we have Iyengar. You heard about Iyengar? The yoga.
Yeah. I don't know. Like many of them, I have only.
Yeah. Well, I met many of these people from many of these groups, and those who I could not get, I went through the internet and I did all my research, books and stuff. And we have Sai Baba, Satya Sai Baba, which is famous. Rajneesh, also very famous, very easy to talk with people from the Sai Baba and from Rajneesh groups. Then Kripalu, even very easy. Tell.
No, nothing. I was
Okay.
just nodding that.
Yeah.
Easy to find their followers.
Very easy. And Nirmala Devi also in Sahaja Yoga is extremely easy to find people there. And the Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and the Art of Living, that is also easy to find people who will talk about that because they're following and everything. The Jaggi Vasudeva and the Ish Foundation also as well, there are lots of people. Then Paramahamsa Nityananda also, who want to start a Hindu nation on an island or something like that. It's very interesting people. Then starting from the Orthodox Hinduism and Bhakti specifically, because all these are not exactly about Bhakti. But specifically about Bhakti, we go like Nimbarka Ramdas Katya Baba is from the line of Nimbarka. Then we have the Almas, all the Almas, blah 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 blah. Which the most famous one, you can find a lot of actual information, and also their books. There is a lot of in English language. Then we have Ramanuja, Ramananda, then we have Meratusidas, the Nayanars, the Natha Yogi, Shaiva Siddhanta, Kashmiri Shaivism, Virashaiva and Lingayats. I don't know if this is saying anything to you. But Varkari tradition, definitely you heard about them. Within the Mahanubhava movement, they are very closely connected. The Ditya Vitoba, Dhyaneshwar, Nandecha Kamela, blah blah blah, all the group of the Varkaris, basically. Then we have the Haridasas. Then I had to insert Madhva and the Puri Jagannath. You know, the situation, you know, around the Jagannath, the tradition of Jagannath Puri. Some famous devotees of Jagannath, Buddhism as a Hindu movement. And then we go to the Bengali Odissi tradition, Jayadeva Goswami, the Bowls, and then we have Madhavendra Puri, Ramananda Raya, the Oriya Vaishnavism. These are five, the Panchasakhas of Oriya Vaishnavism. Atibadi Jagannath, Balaram Das, Achyutananda Das, Ishananta Das, Yashamanta Das. Salabega is an odd person, but is extremely famous in Puri. He didn't belong to any sampradaya, at least officially, but he was extremely influential because of his songs and because of his life example. He was a very great devotee of Jagannath, and he wrote beautiful songs that people are still singing for the festivals of Jagannath. Then we have the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Krishna Chaitanya, blah blah, other companions. And then we come to the Bhaktivinoda Bhaktisiddhanta ISKCON that I started with, because that is a tradition that I know best. Because I was directly engaged in the in the organization, and actually I translated practically all their books in Italian language. So I just I studied a lot on their ideology, their texts, and so on. So this is a general picture of how I got the information. I think I answered your question.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Abundantly, as they say. Also, while
basically some of them you met, some of them you researched, some of them like you had all cases. Some of them you read about, some of them you met.
Yes, and especially one thing that I forgot to mention is that while I was in Puri, I got in contact also with the Orthodox Brahmins, with the temple pandas, with the Rajguru family. So one of the most active members of the Rajguru family and the temple administration and everything was the son, the nephew of the Rajsharmas, the Ravi Narayan, Surya Narayan, Acharya from the Acharya family, which is the Rajguru family in Puri. And I associated very closely with them for a few years. So I was, normally attending, going to their house and staying in their house and discussing and getting documents, information, having very serious conversations with them. And also from the side of my adopted son, the Mahapatras, which is one of the 16 Sasana Brahmin families. There are only 16 people who have the right to sit in the Mukti Mandapa, which is the Dharma court, like the tribunal, the court of Dharma within the Jagannath Puri temple. So I adopted the last son of one of these families, legally adopted. So I had a very strong relationship with the family. So that strong relationship was not just about, material identification with family, but was about, ideology and, learning about Jagannath culture, learning about the traditions of Orissa. And when I was writing my book about Puri and Orissa, I had a group of young men from Brahmin, very, very high caste Orthodox Brahmin families who were working with me to collect information for the Puri book. So when I could not go myself, I was sending them, they would come back with all the information. So I did a lot of work. I was not in India for 35 years just to eat a pakora. Yeah, drinking chai and eating pakora. So that is the general, that I forgot to add that. But it's been extremely interesting because it was a big blessing for me, because otherwise, if I had not done that, I wouldn't have been able to get a wide vision of Hinduism. And that's why I became a Hindu. So why I became a Hindu? Because I could see the greater picture. The identification as Hindu, we can talk about that as well, maybe not this time because we already consumed our hour with this kind of, general presentation. But I think if we discuss more about the definition of Hinduism, what is in Hinduism actually, that would be, in my opinion, it could be a very interesting subject. Relevant to many people. Practical importance. Okay. So
maybe next time we can discuss that.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is the book. It is available in English, and I'm trying to make it available in Italian language as well. But in English it's already available from the website in PDF format. So, anyone can download it easily and read it, no problem. And then, if you have any questions about that, we can discuss next time.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. And
no, I'm very happy that, if we find subjects, topics that can be useful to people and, we can talk about in a proactive manner, I think it's better. Okay.
Yep.
Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai. Oh,
Jai
Monday,
Shri Radhe.
this beginning of next week is Gita Jayanti.
Okay.
So, Ekadashi, Gita Jayanti. So, just
Next Wednesday?
next Monday.
Okay.
But yeah, we can talk about what, how we, for a post facto discussion about Gita Jayanti. No problem.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Jai. Jai Jagannath.
Okay,
Jai
thank
Shri
you.
Radhe.
Jai Jagan. Jai Radha.